kind of random. Coming up this week on Hip Hop Now podcast, my review of the autobiography of Rakim, Sweat the Technique, The God.
But let's get right to the business.
Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
Classic album.
Come to Hip Hop Podcast. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast Extra, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip-hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Returning listeners, you know what it is. You know how we get down. Appreciate you. New listeners, I'm glad you are here to share in this historical event on this podcast that I do because it's a passion, you know? I meant that. I wasn't trying to be sarcastic, but please know that subscribing to this podcast, if you like it, is the best thing to do. And more important than that is hitting that like button and sharing it with those you know enjoy this kind of content. Now, I know you might be saying to yourself, because you're new, old school listeners, you know how we get down. This is a extra version of Hip Hop Now podcast, and what that means is we're going to focus on one topic at hand. That's how we doing it. One topic at hand. And the topic today, man, is one that I didn't see myself getting into. I don't believe I've ever done this on this podcast, even though I've read other hip hop books. But this one, after watching an interview with the God, I had to pause a little bit there, with the God on Power 105, The Breakfast Club, I had to read it. And, you know, that's a testament to the interview, but it's also a testament to the fact that, let's get some things out the way. Rakim is a very private person. He's always been private over the years. He didn't say much. Come to find out, that's a part of his mystique, purposely. So we know Rakim, but we don't know Rakim. And me, as a longtime hip-hop fan, felt almost obligated as a content creator and as a fan to learn more about one of the best MCs of all time. Some will say the greatest MC of all time, but we could talk about that a little bit later. First of all, the book, for those who, you know, may feel like they don't want to go through the rigmarole and all of that, right? The book is a quick read. It's 200 and something pages. If you into it, you'll blow through it quick. I did. Honestly, if it wasn't for work and other responsibilities, I could have blown through this book in probably a day or two. I'm not even lying. It's short, but it's not that short. You know what I'm saying? But definitely, for someone like myself, I'm not the type that I haven't read all hip hop books. I've read a couple to the end, like Prodigy's book, My Infamous Life. I found that very entertaining. I read that joint. I'm still currently reading Can't Stop, Won't Stop because I kept stopping. I had that digitally. Maybe if I buy the physical version, I'll be a little bit more proactive about finishing it. And I've read so many other books that deal with hip hop in some ways, but, you know, other subjects or whatever. So I said all that to say that my reading habits as far as books depends on how locked in I am to the content. Now, I finished books in high school like the autobiography of Malcolm X. I was captivated by the story and by the book. And that was in the 90s when I read that. It was already old. But I feel like I got a bunch of books. I ain't even gonna front you. I got a bunch of books where I'm like currently reading, and I've been currently reading them for years. So I said all that to say, I finished this Rakim book in maybe 2 weeks. And again, if I didn't have other things going on, I would have finished it much quicker. So that tells you a lot about how into it I was. I have a long commute in the mornings to work, and coming home from work, so it allowed me to kind of really lose myself in this book. Now, the name of the book is called Sweat the Technique, Revelations on Creativity from the Lyrical Genius, Rakim. Is actually a collaboration between Rakim, I'm flipping through the pages real quick, and Bakari Kitwana. I watched a video of him saying his name, so I hope I said that correctly. He's the author. He's also a journalist. But it's a collaboration between those two. There's also, I believe, a foreword from Dr. Cornel West, and he coins Rakim the Coltrane of hip hop. If you don't know, it's John Coltrane, you know what I'm saying, played the saxophone. And what is somewhat widely known now that Rakim styled his rhyme pattern after the way John Coltrane plays. So it's fitting that Cornel West will refer to him as that. A couple other things here, you know, like on the cover, they have a quote of the greatest lyricist of all time from the Source magazine. And I gotta say, you know, for those who may not want to hear a whole bunch of talk and just want to know whether it's good, is it good or not? The book is good. If you're a hip hop fan, right? Whether you're a young hip hop fan that's learning about the past, or you're an older hip hop fan that was there and appreciates hip hop's lyricism, you appreciate lyricism, you appreciate the dedication to the craft of lyricism. See, there's a different thing, a difference between a cat who just wants to be known as being dope and nice. So he's really trying to say that the dopest things ever. But when I tell you this book is called Sweat the Technique, the operative word is technique, right? Rakim is another breed of MC, especially when it comes to songwriting. We'll definitely get into that. But if you're a hip hop fan and you love hip hop and you respect Rakim, if you refer to him like a lot of people do in the hip hop game as the God, and you understand why we call him the God, you would like this book. And just briefly, before I deep dive into the book itself, in hip hop, for those that don't know, in hip hop, we refer to Rakim as the God, right? Not because he's, you know, we're not to be disrespectful towards any religion or anybody's spiritual get down, whatever. We don't do it for that reason. We call him the God because he's somewhat the father of the styles of modern day hip hop artists, meaning his style of rapping, the way he flows, the way he puts words together, fathered the styles of a Nas, a Eminem, maybe even some of his peers, but I'm not gonna go there. Jay-Z, Biggie, you know, Tupac. Like, again, I said it on this podcast a million times, right? A million times I said it on this podcast. Before Rakim, and arguably before Big Daddy Kane, we can say that as well, because Big Daddy Kane was a little bit different from Rakim, but he wasn't like the old school cats. But let's stick to Rakim. Before Rakim, dudes was yes, yes, y'all, keep the party going, don't stop and you don't rock, whatever. They were masters of ceremony. They were host to a beat, basically. Rakim brought technique into rhymes. Technique that he got from others, but he didn't rhyme like them. You know, he took pieces from some of his favorites, but he didn't rhyme like them. You know, he took, and again, Rakim is an older cat. So when I say he take pieces from some of his favorites like Grandmaster Caz and Kumo D, those are guys who were lyrical for their time, but they still kind of rhyme like, what y'all trying to do, y'all? Let's get up in the party. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, if you're young, that's literally how they would rhyme, which was called routines, you know, and it was usually with a couple of groups of people, you know what I'm saying? Even though Kumo D was a soloist. but it was more like routine rapping and like really like a showcase. And Rakim brought a technical, lyrical style that was laid back, more subdued, not as much as a showman, like I'm saying, like Cole rock the party, y'all need y'all to get on up. Like he didn't do that, you know what I'm saying? He was more cool. I was a fiend before I became a teen, like taking pauses between. So Rakim fathered the styles of the future of hip hop. That's why sometimes people say the golden era was another time. It's like, nah, a lot of cats who invented the rapping we do today was in the 80s, and Rakim is one of them. So we call him the God because he is the beginning. Get what I'm saying? He is the beginning. I don't care how your favorite rapper raps today. He is the alpha. Let's get into the book, though. So what I really like about this book is I get to learn about Rakim. Rakim, born William Michael Griffin Jr., changed his name to Rakim. I'm not going to give away the book, so don't worry, it's no spoilers. But changed his name to Rakim eventually. And what I really enjoyed about this book and learning about William Michael Griffin Jr. is the fact that I learned that Rakim had a lot of support as a child and a lot of encouragement. His parents did a lot of things that, I have two sons, and I looked at what was in his book and the different things that Rakim went through in his life and how his parents were always there to kind of set him on the right path and also to encourage and nurture his natural talents. And I think that's important in any situations. Like, don't look at your kids as, you got to be a baseball player, you got to be a football player, you got to be a singer, you got to be a rapper, something glamorous because that's what you value. You nurture their interests. Sure, you introduce them to things, but whatever they're going to be interested in, they're going to be interested in. And you nurture the things they like. And I felt like Rakim's family was so supportive from when he was a little guy, playing sports. He played football to when he was, playing in the jazz band and when he became a rapper, and even other decisions he made in his life that they weren't too happy with, but they seemed to always have answers and responses to things that I didn't expect. For example, this is well known that Rakim caught a gun charge when he was 12, right? And you would think getting busted by your parents, I'm just reading, I'm just waiting for, how much trouble he got into. And obviously, sure, he got into some trouble, don't get me wrong. But the things that his parents would say to him and do for him, and the way he would react in a way that was positive, it makes a lot of the things he did just seem like just adolescence, as opposed to someone who's doing things because things at home aren't great, someone who's doing bad or getting into trouble because they don't get enough attention, whereas he was getting attention. And I think it was pretty dope to see that from family to friends and everything. Now, also in this book, you get, obviously his career, from the beginnings of his career to making Paid in Full, to making Eric B as president, to making each album that he's made, even the Dr. Dre situation, and when he broke up from Eric B and Rakim. And what I really liked about that portion of the book was the fact that it was everything I wanted to know, and I didn't feel like, oh, here come the gossip. It was just, this is what happened. Now, sure, there are probably things that are being left out and omitted for whatever reason, but I was comfortable with what Rakim was providing us with, because it was events in his career that I remember and that I could connect with as a fan. You know what I'm saying? And the way the book is set up where it's telling like 3 phases of his life, right? It's passages that focus on his biography. It's the through line of his life. It's the timeline of his life. Then there's another timeline throughout the book that shows up in other passages, which speaks deeply to his lyrics, how he came about it, how he rhymes, his passion, his drive as it relates to making music and just writing a verse, the things he likes to do before a show, even breaking down verses and entire songs from his catalog. And it's not many of them, but it's specific songs. And I think one thing that had me ready to like close the book and go start listening to some Rakim was this. And this is not necessarily a spoiler, but actually it's a preview for you if you haven't read it. And again, if you're a hip hop fan, would make you want to go out and get it. But to have an MC's lyrics, maybe to a song written out for you to read for yourself, and you can see the techniques there, and then have him break down line for line and overall verse and overall song as to why he wrote what he wrote, and the science behind why he wrote it, what influenced him to write it, was so dope. You know what I'm saying? Like just to think about, like for example, he has Casualties of War, a song off of Don't Sweat the Technique. Now, I like that album and I own it. And I remember that record. I remember that record striking a chord with me because I'm like, man, Rakim is here rhyming about a soldier in Iraq, detailed. And I just thought that was so dope at the time. So to have not only this verse in here or this song in this book, and then have Rakim break down everything about it, especially one part that I didn't even peep or I didn't even think about knowing the record, that kind of blew my mind on some Prophet stuff. I just couldn't believe it. Another thing about him breaking down his technique when it came to writing rhymes. I said this to a couple of friends. Compared to Rakim, some of your favorite MCs are just lazy. And you know who they are. Because the more dumbed down your lyrics are overall, the more I have to feel like you're not on Rakim's level of writing. Now, obviously, there are those who display skill where you can tell easily when you hear it that, yeah, that wasn't something he just wrote. Nas is capable of doing that. Kendrick is capable of doing that. Eminem, Pharoah Monch, maybe even Talib Kweli. But Rakim's technique didn't just extend to what he talked about. It also extended to the words he used and how he placed them throughout the rhymes. Like throughout the verses, I mean. Like most cats rhyme to try to say slick lines and rhyme on beat. And maybe the verse makes sense as a whole, and then maybe that connects with the other verses and makes sense as a song. But Rakim was breaking it down to how many words can he fit in a bar, and where he take pauses, and where he takes a breath. See, I'm thinking I'm just paid in full. I'm just thinking, yo, that's just his statement. I'm not knowing there's a science behind it, and seeing that science made me think about the lyrics more of some of my favorite records. And you can hear it. The records sound totally different now because now you know what he was doing when he wrote it. There was a method to the madness. Now, again, I'm not even going to lie, y'all. Rakim talked about his later albums like The Master and The Seventh Seal. 2 albums I did not like. mainly because of the beats. And I also never really gave the lyrics a chance because I didn't like the beats. And I felt like Rakim's flow and wordplay was stuck. Now, to him, what he says a lot in his book is that he's his own competition. He's always trying to outdo himself. And I got that if you follow from Paid in Full to Don't Sweat the Technique and Know the Ledge. Definitely you can see the progression there. But those later albums, later on in his career, after having someone like a Nas, who is probably the closest comparison to him as far as that technique and that cadence, Nas has taken those skills to a whole nother level as far as where you place words and what you say and how it all comes together. So it would make me, and not just Nas, but other artists also, and it would make me look at Rakim's older material or newer material as like being dated because of the way he rhymed. Now Rakim's dated because he influenced all these other generations. Now his style is dated, even though his style was the alpha. You know what I'm saying? So it was dope reading the book to get inside his head. And honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. This weekend, if you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. But this weekend, I'm gonna listen to The Master and the Seventh Seal again. Because now I feel like, well, why did I pay so much attention to the beats? Why did I put so much stock into whether I like the beats or not? When Rakim is rhyming on here, and I need to be paying attention to the lyrics, especially as someone who's rhymed. But Rakim convinced me, explaining some of his records. And there's also a through line of his spirituality, obviously, being a 5%er and all of that, and studying different religions and being able to speak on it to a certain extent. And the thing I love about this book and about Rakim is this man is honest with himself as an MC. He's honest with himself as a man. Like he really is, as far as I can tell. I don't know him, but obviously I felt he was very genuine in how he told his story in this book. And I think it comes across in everything from him talking about his family, to talking about his career, to talking about, to looking at, the hip hop game and where it went and how he felt, about certain things and offers he got. Now, I know there's some people who are going to pick up this book, and especially because you're talking about a dude who doesn't do many interviews. I mean, he's doing a lot now, obviously, but didn't do a lot of interviews and kind of was like in the shadows the majority of the time. I know people want to know the drama, right? You want to know about the real 50 Cent. You want to know about EPMD and any confrontations. You want to know about any confrontations with a Big Daddy Kane in regards to rhyming and battling and taking shots at each other. You want to know about what happened with the Eric B. and Rakim breakup. And maybe you even want to know what happened with Dr. Dre in Aftermath and the album that never happened. I will give you one thing, and I'm not going to give you any details, but I just have this to say. And I hope I know Dr. Dre is listening. Okay, maybe he's not, but I'm saying Dr. Dre, Rakim. You and Dr. Dre completed 13 songs, I believe it was. And one of y'all have it, or if not both of y'all. We need that. Hip hop need that. I don't care why it didn't work out. We just need to hear it, fam. I'm not trying to hear it when, God forbid, I hear the news that Rakim has passed on. I don't want it then. I want it now when he's right here where I could hear it and at him on social media and say how dope it is, or give my opinion on the direction, or whatever the case may be. I think we live in a time where all of that leaked, shelved album stuff, it need to die down. A lot of leaked, shelved albums are either have been re-released, or have leaked onto the internet in their entirety. It's happened for a number of artists, a number of legendary albums, one being Foxy Brown's Ill 992, which was really dope. But it never dropped. But it was really dope. Dr. Dre and Rakim. And I think what really got me more excited, because back in the days, I was excited that Rakim was with Dr. Dre because I knew he would have some dope beats. But thinking about how Rakim thinks about his lyrics and how thoughtful he is about his lyrics and how much of a perfectionist Dr. Dre is, I just saw that combination being something crazy. Now, I could be wrong because I thought the same about Nas and Dr. Dre. And I think Phone Tap is the only one that I thought was crazy. The others were cool, but Phone Tap was the only song that was sound like magic, sound like the magic I expected. But nevertheless, Rakim Sweat the Technique, I think, is an excellent book for a hip hop fan. Again, you learn about the man's life, you learn about his motivations as a man, as a lyricist, and you learn about his technique, and you learn about his technique in detail. I cannot stress that enough. So now, granted, there are going to be some people who are not necessarily feeling some of the things that are in here for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? They may feel like, well, he's talking all complex about his bars, but then when I go hit play on it, it really sounds simple. But you have to put these things in context. Rakim was out in the mid-'80s. Again, at a time where Curtis Blow had a jerry curl, a fishnet shirt on, with a top hat and crushed groove, and I rule the world. I'm saying that was hip-hop generally. Those were the hip-hop artists. Run DMC was a little bit different, but still was routines. Still was a lot of energy. Rakim was something we had never seen. In the 90s, we got a million versions of Rakim. But back then, Rakim was one of a kind. His rhyme style was one of a kind. And then to hear this man talk about how he created that and his influences that basically father his style, from Grandmaster Caz to Muhammad Ali to John Coltrane's playing the saxophone, and what he did to create that different sound. He wasn't just, I stumbled across a flow. He purposely did this. And in this book, it is in detail what he did on paper. It's not just him writing the rhymes out. I would love to see a picture of his rhyme book from back then, knowing what he did to that page as he wrote a verse. That's somebody who came to, that's a mechanic. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't come there to play. He came there to be the best. And Rakim is one of the greatest lyricists of all time. He's the God. So if you want to know Rakim's Sweat the Technique, Revelations on Creativity from the Lyrical Genius, is definitely worth your time. That's going to do it for me for this week. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Vegas World INC. And please know that this podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. So it doesn't matter if you have an iPhone. It don't matter if you have Android. It don't matter if you listen on your computer or you take the phone in the car. Or maybe you still have an iPod. All you got to do is in that podcast app that you use, search for the words Hip Hop Now Podcast, hit that subscribe button, and be locked in to the best hip hop content on podcast universe. Okay, whatever. Until next time, y'all. I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace. Drop it on the random.